Hello there, everyone, and a very, very happy Friday to you today. Welcome to this afternoon's Crafting with Arden Facebook Live. I'm really delighted that you are here today. I'm happy to be here today. And we have got some really fun projects, some fun techniques, and some super fun and very beautiful papers and embellishments to play with today. My name is Sarah, and I'm super happy to be sharing two festive projects with you. The first is going to be a handmade card, and we'll be doing some stamping on here to create our focal and then playing with some beautiful patterned papers as well. And also, I have a little ornament for us to create today. So we've got front and back of this. So we've got two really easy and festive projects to work on today. Hi, Avril. Nice to see you today. As folks are jumping in, please do feel free to leave a comment in the chat, and I will do my best to demonstrate and read and hopefully answer or at least address any of your comments and questions. The lovely Fiona from Arden is a backstage, and she's also posting some elements here too with Katie's collections, so the papers and the embellishments that I'm going to be working with today, and she will provide some links for that. And will also catch me if I miss any of the questions. So hi, Fiona, and thanks for popping in with those. So I am going to go ahead and just share a little bit about the projects, and then I'll angle my camera down and we can get into the demo. Hi, Susan in Wisconsin. Is it cold where you are? Fiona and I were just discussing whether it was snowing in either of our various parts of the world, and sadly it's not, but I wonder if it is in Wisconsin. So let us know. Give us the weather update if you wouldn't mind, Susan. The pattern papers that we're going to be working with today are from the Season of Joy paper pad. And the designer of this collection is one of my all-time favorites. I absolutely love her illustration style and her design style. Absolutely gorgeous. So we'll be playing with this pack today and the coordinating embellishments. Susan, it is snowing. Well, stay inside. Stay nice and cozy and warm. Hopefully you have a fun weekend of crafting ahead of you instead of shoveling the snow. All righty, everybody, let's turn down the camera and we can get into our demonstration today. So today I'm going to be working onto a craft mat, and the reason for that is because I'm going to do a little bit of heat embossing, and I'm also going to do some inking. So I want to kind of protect my work surface here. The projects, both of them are including some inking techniques. So for this, I've got my stamping, and I'm doing some double stamping on here. So I want to share that process with you. And then for our ornament, I'm doing some inking, some shadow inking around on this white portion of paper that I've got die cut in here. And those are just really simple and easy techniques. Some kind of classic paper crafting techniques for us to explore today. So I figured let's start out first with our handmade card. So I'm going to put aside the ornament just for now and talk a little bit about the papers and the focal. So when I'm making cards, I like to figure out what my focal is for the card, which is usually the largest element, or it's like the first thing that your eye is drawn to. And in this case, I have a beautiful stamped tree. And the tree stamp is coming from this stamp set. So this is the Makers series. It's the Winter Etchings collection. I love this. As soon as I saw this, I thought I have to work this into a card. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. I just think this is such a beautiful and versatile collection. So you've got the 4 trees here, and then you've also got some sentiments on here as well. So sending holiday wishes, seeking Santa. You've got a large word Christmas on here, and then you've got a little this is joy, Merry Christmas, ho, ho, ho. You can interact a lot of these elements here too. The other thing I like about this, and I'm just looking at the fonts here, the sentiments are really nice and useful, but also the font is classic, and easy to read. It's easy to stamp and it's easy to read. And I think just sometimes we see beautifully scripted sentiment, but it's tricky to have it stamp and read um, easily. So that's what I appreciate about these two. And then you've also got the little Merry Christmas postmark up there. So 12 stamps altogether. They are clear stamps, so you'll just peel them off and add them onto either a block or a stamping platform, which is what I'm going to do today. And I've got this stamped onto some white cardstock and then layered around with some of our beautiful pattern papers. So I figure we can start with the stamping and then kind of work our way through the card layout. I've got some shortcuts already prepared for us because I want to make sure that we're making the best use of your time today. So I'm going to bring in my MISTI, my stamp positioner here, and open this up. And when I stamp my focal, which is this large tree here, I want to do a couple of things. I wanted it to be green, but I didn't want it to be bright green. I wanted it to be a little bit toned down. So I'm using not only a nice cheerful green, this is Shamrock, it's a dye-based ink from Hunky Dory. I'm going to tone it down with a little bit of mustard, which is a lighter brown. And the labels are pretty true to the colors on here, so you can see that that mustard is definitely going to make the tree a little bit more subtle. And you'll see this as we're stamping. And the cardstock that I'm going to use today is from the Natural White collection. In some of our other lives, I've been using the Bright White cardstock, which is also nice. The Natural White is just a little bit softer. It's not as bright as you might imagine. So I've just trimmed down a piece of the white, and I'm going to pop this into my MISTI. If you are new to stamp positioners or stamping, a MISTI or a stamp positioner is a really great way to not waste paper, first and foremost, but to make sure that you get a really nice, crisp, clean image. And if you make a mistake, it can very often be fixed with your stamp positioner too. So this is the image that I'm using, and I chose this one. Took me a while to choose the one I wanted, but I chose this one because it fits perfectly within this paper frame. And the frames are from an ephemera set. So I wanted to be able to create a nice spotlight area there. So that tree fit in here just absolutely perfectly. So I'm going to grab the stamp, get it out of the package here. Again, if you are new to stamps, you may be thinking of wood-mounted stamps when you think of rubber stamps, and acrylic stamps are just the next iteration of these. So they have the image on one side, smooth on the other side. When I'm positioning this down, I'm just going to set it here on my piece of cardstock. And then another good thing, just make sure that you've got enough cardstock on either side of there. You've got this position where you want it to go. And then close this up and it will be on the other side. So I'm using some of the magnets. Now those come with the MISTI. You may notice that I've got a little grubby piece of tape on here on this bar magnet. That's so I can grab it more easily. If they click together, they are kind of tough to get off. I'm going to start with this Shamrock ink here and just ink up my tree, the whole thing. And you'll see when I stamp this that it is definitely a shamrock color. So I just need to press this down gently but firmly, and then I've got my tree. Now, since I want to tone this down a bit, I'm going to keep everything in place, the paper and the stamp, and come back in with my mustard and just put a bit more ink on here. And this time when I stamp it, I'm going to do it a bit more gently. So I'm not really like putting my whole full force on here, just gently. And then lift this off. And I think I quite like that. It's really toned it down nicely, but I still have hints of that green showing in there too. So I'm going to call this good. Grab a baby wipe or any damp cloth to clean this off. And then I can put this back on the liner of my stamp sheet. So easy to organize, so easy to store, and a great way to have a lot of stamps in one small area if you have a small crafting space like I do. Now I'm going to grab the postmark on here, the Merry Christmas postmark, and position this down. So I've got the wavy lines kind of going over here. I'm going to be overlapping my design a bit. And same process. I'm just going to close this up, open it, and this time I'm going to use a black ink. So this is an onyx black. This is one of my go-to black ink pads. And this is going to give me a nice crisp image on here as well. Hi, Thelma from Michigan. You know, Susan, your neighbor in Wisconsin, is here as well. And we were just talking about whether it's snowing where you are. So let us know, Thelma, if it's cold and snowy in beautiful Michigan, or if it's just Susan who's there with her snowfall. Fiona and I were talking earlier about how we wish it would snow in our areas. We did not talk about managing through snow, though, so I'm sure that's something that the two of you have lots of experience with, like driving in it, shoveling it, all the non-fun stuff. Okay, so I've got my tree here, double inked and double stamped, and my little postmark on there as well. But of course, you've got lots of other elements on here. And one thing I would point out too, I think these trees are beautiful for Christmas. I think they could also go for other times of the year too. So whenever I'm getting a Christmas stamp set, I also like to look and see where I could use some of those other elements throughout the year. So this passed the test for me. Now all I need to do is scoot away those magnets and pull this back out, and I am ready to go. Oh, Susan, you got 6 inches of snow last Saturday. My word, that's a lot of snow. And Thelma also has lots of snow too. Are you in? Does it put you in the holiday spirit then for all of your crafting? I would hope so. Okay, now the next part of our card project is going to be setting the frame and creating our background. Oh, Thelma's a retired art teacher. Oh, that's wonderful. That sounds fantastic, especially the retired part. Now that you can do your teaching, your art and your teaching techniques for yourself then too. Alrighty, so I've got my focal element and I've got some papers that I have pulled from our Season of Joy paper pad. You've got lots of options in here. I always say that, especially with Katie's pattern papers, the hardest part is deciding which ones to use. So here I've got a layer of some teal, I've got some red, and I've got this plaid here, and then also our frame. The card base that I'm working with is one that I purchased locally here in Europe. So it's going to be a slightly different size than many American size of cards. So this measures in centimeters, 10.5 centimeters this way by 15 going this way, which is 4¼ inches this way by about or almost 6 inches the long way. So with this card design, you can kind of play with if you want to go a little bit bigger or even a little bit smaller or square, for example, you can adjust for that. And the card is pre-scored and folded. So the measurements I just gave you are for the folded card front. I'm going to start with this gorgeous design, which I think this is just my color. I love this color a lot, and it's one I really gravitate towards, especially in combination with red. I think these two are just beautiful. And I'm going to go ahead and cover the front of my card with this pattern paper. So the fold of my card is over here, and I'm just going to position this. It just about fits on here. And then I can trim off the excess. Now you can use either a double-sided tape. You could use a glue stick like I'm going to use just for the interest of time. The only thing I would caution against using is a white glue for this, because I find that that can be a little bit too much liquid. So something like a glue stick is going to work perfectly. And I'll just flip my paper over and my card over, and I'm going to align the two. Now, when I do this, I'm aligning the fold of my card with the edge of my paper so that when I trim off the excess, I'm not cutting along the edge of the card fold. And the reason for that is just because you don't want to accidentally cut into that fold. So this is a live and learn pro tip that I'm sharing with you. Just want to be careful about that. So I'll just trim off the top and bottom because of course I want to save whatever rest of this sheet of paper, which is beautiful on both sides. Set that to one side, and now the front of my card is covered. And I've also cut a piece of this red pattern paper, slightly smaller than my card front. And one thing I want to point out about both of these pattern papers, and I'll kind of hold them up closer to the camera so you can really see, they read like a solid, but they are definitely patterned. So you can see that there's this kind of modeling effect on here. It almost looks like, Thelma, you've probably done this technique before, where you've got watercolor paper and you put salt on it, and then it creates this really cool textured effect on there. And then you brush off the salt crystals and you have a really pretty pattern. And that's kind of what I'm looking at with these two. I think they just have a beautiful subtlety to them. So then I can simply place down my next layer of paper. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Before I do that, though, I'm going to take my mustard ink pad and I'm going to do just a little bit of inking lightly around the edges here. Again, just to create a bit of dimension, a little bit of depth on there. And I'll do it along the front of my card too. And this is a nice way to add a little bit of color to your project. And that's where a good brown ink pad really does come in handy. We'll flip this over and add a bit more glue to the back. If we had all the time in the world, I'd really recommend that that ink be totally dry, but unfortunately we don't, unless you want to spend the entire day with me, which could be kind of fun too. In the interest of time, I'll just be very, very careful. Okay, pop this down. All right, so my two are ready to go. And you can start to see where this is coming in together. Now, the next part of the process will be adding in our middle layer of this pattern paper. So I've got the plaid, which I think is beautiful. And I've got a plaid piece here, so we can do exactly the same card if we want to. But I also thought that too, as I mentioned, the hardest part is that you've got to choose which side of the paper to use. Good thing there are two sheets of each of these in that collection. So this could look quite nice. And then I also saw this one, which I think is also really beautiful and gives a completely different look. So I was really torn and I thought, okay, first I thought, oh, I'll do this one. No, I'll do the plaid. Why don't we go with this one? Just then that way we will have two different looks for our card design. So I'll flip this over. Try not to be tempted by this side of the paper and simply glue this down. This is so sweet because it also has lots of those shades of green, but it has little red berries on there too. So pretty. And then I've got my focal here ready to go. Now I can choose my frame. And there are several frames. I've pulled many of them out. And these are from the ephemera sets. So I've got two ephemera packs that I'm working with for these projects. There's the Season of Joy ephemera pack, and then there is the Page Makers, or here's the Essentials and then Page Makers. Both of them contain elements that match perfectly with these pattern papers. So In this one, you can see you've got some floral elements, like with the trees, you've got the poinsettias, more foliage, some tags on here, and lots of sentiments and smaller words. And then this one, which is the page makers, this has all of these cool frames as well as large sentiments and some words on there too. So I'm using the frames from this collection. And because I've got so many nice ones, this is where I can really do some mixing and matching. So I could simply use a red frame. It's got a nice faux aged and scuffed look around the outside edge. There is the same in green, which is really pretty, and that could also work. And then we've got some patterned ones. So kind of like a candy cane peppermint stick that could go. There's the green, which is also really pretty. I like that one. And then there is, it's a like a darker green. It's almost a marine blue, between a blue and a green. And I thought that would be really pretty too. So this is the hardest part here. Let me think about the red. Not sure about the red. I'm really going toward, let's see, this one, or shall we do this one? Let's see what this one will come out to be. Okay, so I'll put aside the other frames. Hi, Glynis. Glynis is in the UK. Wonderful to have you join us today. We're just working our way through a stamped card. All right, so then for the focal element here, what I'll do is simply flip over my frame. And then here's where the wet glue can really come in handy because I can get some nice precision on here. You can also use foam tape for this and cut lots of really small, narrow pieces, which is what I did for this card actually. I like to have a little bit of depth in there. So either way, depends on how much dimension you want. And handling this carefully. I will just pop this down here. I do really like this striped frame. And then just let that set for a second. So while that starts to dry, a couple of other things I have going on here. I've got some of the ephemera elements as well as the sentiment that goes across here. And I will pull those little pieces out so we have those ready. I've got one that's tucked underneath, and then I've got one that's popped up on top. And then the holiday traditions. This was one that I also took a long time to figure out which message I wanted. And for this card, I thought I'm going to pull the joy to the world sentiment because I really do like this too. I like the black frame here and how it coordinates with the black ink that we have for our postmark. And from here, I'm just going to gently lift this slightly away so that I can trim away the white cardstock in the background without accidentally cutting the frame. And this will give me my perfectly framed focal piece, which I could also pop up with some foam tape if I wanted to. These frames are great for going either vertically or horizontally. You've got some choice there, but they do really help to set the stage nicely for our focal piece. All right, so then I've got this popped here. And let's go ahead and glue this one down. And again, whatever kind of adhesive works best for you. So I've got this going down here. I could also, you know what, I'm going to give this one a little bit more ink around the outside edges too, to enhance that faux scuffing I have printed onto the frame. And I'm not going to put it straight in the middle of the card. I want to leave a little bit of space down at the bottom. And underneath here, I'm going to tuck in this little piece like so. And just pop this just underneath. Now this can also overlap, kind of go beyond those borders. And then I've got my other element here, which I'm just going to grab a little bit of foam tape and put that behind the part that's going to overlap past that frame. So I'm just accenting this. And this is creating some balance you can see between the postage stamp up here and our foliage piece on the other side. Okay. And kind of tuck this around here like so. And since I've got the foam tape underneath these two leaves, then it will stay nice and stable. And then I can tuck my sentiment under here as well. And here we go. I'm going to cover up the word, but I also want that overlapping just a little bit. So there you can see you can get two very, very different looks just swapping out literally the frame and this background pattern paper. And don't be surprised if you see another card in the future using the plaid for this, because I think that would be really beautiful as well. Now, before we look at the inside of the card, I do want to show you again with our paper pad. So all of these different designs, of course, double-sided. You've got 24 sheets in total. And just look, they're so pretty. I think they are just absolutely gorgeous designs. I'm going to position it this way so you can see cardinals. And then this is one of my favorites. Have a look. I think that's absolutely stunning. Now you've got all of these gorgeous pattern papers. As we're getting to the back of the collection, I'm going to show you something else, two very special things. So you've also got two sheets of these die cut elements. So these will just pop right out of the back of the sheet, which gives you even more elements that you can use for the front of your card, the envelope, the inside of your card. And these, of course, are all designed to coordinate beautifully. Also in the back, you have a sheet that looks like this. So this can be cut apart so that you've got elements that could fit really nicely on the front of a card. So with the card size that I'm working with, you could see this would fit perfectly. You could just pop that on the front of a blank card and you're ready to go. You've got 3 of those on here. On the back side, you have the same overall design, but without the words. So you can add your own sentiment on there. You could even do some of the stamping on there too. So with this sheet, this is what I used for the inside of my card. And sometimes this is nice too. If you aren't really sure what you want to write on the inside of your card, for some card makers, they're like, the hardest part is when it comes to actually signing or thinking of something creative to include inside. This is a nice kind of shortcut for that too. So you can let Katie do that part for you. So we've got a nice sentiment in here, and I've just inked around the edges and then added some of that same teal paper on the inside. So there's room for a personalized message, but not an intimidating amount of room. So here is our first card project of the day. And I think this is just a really fun combination of those beautiful patterned designs and a great way to incorporate stamping. So also keep in mind with all of these designs here, if you are making a lot of different cards for a big batch of people on your card list, this would be a great way to batch make. So you're just swapping out those different pattern papers. You could even swap out the trees. You could stamp in some of those messages and have a bit of a shortcut with your card making. So those are the first 2 projects. Now let's take a look at the ornament. So something a little bit different. I was really excited to see that we have a very, very useful die. Let me show this to you. I was excited to see this because I thought this is just something that will really come in handy for a lot of folks. Now, with this die set, you've got 7 dies, and you can see the graduating layers of all of the shapes. It's the same shape, just nested one into the other. You also have two really cool kind of retro stars there. You've got some more star accents, and you've got some hangers here as well. So all of those are inside, ready for you. Now, with this project, I didn't do the largest of the shapes. So I think, oop, there's some shine on there. I didn't go to the largest size. I'm using the smallest and then the next two subsequent larger ones. And I told you I did a little bit of shortcutting for us because I don't know if you want to watch me die cut. Probably not. I'm going to guess not. So I've got some pieces already die cut for us. But the technique I want to show you, two of these. First of all is adding some shading around that natural white to create a little bit of a softer contrast between those pattern papers. And then also some heat embossing for our tag topper and the star. And this was because I ran out of gold metallic cardstock and I wanted to add a little bit of gold in there. So I made my own. So I'll show you that part. Now, starting out, I am using some of the laser cut elements. And you can start to see, oh, Season of Joy, this all coordinates. Even the Santa is totally coordinated with our pattern papers, which just really makes this a lot easier. And with the laser cuts, like the ephemera pieces, you're going to have lots of different variety in here with some foliage and messages. These are just popping right out of the backing sheet, and they do have a little bit more delicacy, I think, to them. Many of the pieces do, and they'll just pop right out and you can add them as you wish. They are packed with lots of really cool things. So for this, I've got my Santa element. And you'll notice he's a little bit bigger. It's a different Santa. What I really love about the laser cuts is they are, unlike the ephemera, they are double-sided. So Santa can face either direction. And this is really nice when you're deciding a layout or a card or an ornament. You've got two options for the way things are facing, which also comes in handy for things like foliage too. So if you've ever had a piece and you just wish that it was facing the other direction, that's one really nice thing about the laser cuts. So I'm going to just pull these two elements together. I'm going to use these two like so. And I've got my ornament pieces die cut for us already. Again, hardest part is going to be picking out which of the papers you want to have, which side of those pattern papers you want to use. This one I cut from this portion here because I loved this side of it so much. So if you find that, ooh, there's some writing on there that I don't want to have, simply die cut two and you can glue them back to back. So that's a nice way to get around that. So if we say, okay, we're going to take these two and then layer up with the natural white. And then maybe I want to have this smaller piece in here. And I'm just assembling these things now. Let's get our branch. Or do I want it to go this way? Could do that. And then our Santa. So, okay, things are looking pretty good so far. As I mentioned, I did want to tone down that bright white. So I'm going to scoot everything off here. And I'm just going to grab a blending brush and a light blue. This is a powder blue dye-based ink pad. And working onto my craft mat, I'll just pick up a little bit of the blue. And I'm going to start with the brush on my craft mat and bring the blue into this white piece of cardstock. I don't want to ink this up and then plonk my brush right in the center. You can end up with an oval shaped pattern on there, which again, maybe that's what you want, maybe it's not. So starting more from the craft mat and sort of swirling my way in. And then I can add as much ink as I want or have it be as light as I want. And what I like about these dies, you're not only getting the outside shape of this, but you've also got it's a very subtle line. I don't know if it picks up on the camera, but there is a really nice kind of embossed edge around there. So there's an inner line on there, which is just a nice finishing touch. It's like a nice, I don't know, this is kind of one of those things that when you can spot a quality product, there's a little bit of added attention to detail, which I like about Arden supplies in general. All righty. So you can see I've got some shading going on there. In fact, let me hold this up against another piece of white cardstock. I think you can see that really pretty shadow effect in there. Make sure to put the lid back on and then just kind of clean this up quickly. The other nice thing about doing that sort of shadow effect, even though these are a nice small size of ink pad, it is a little bit tricky if you're doing that direct to paper inking like I did for the card. It's a little tricky to fiddle in around some of the more detail parts. And so this is a nice way, and this goes for lots of different shapes with the blending brushes. So let's see here. I'm gonna go with this side. And same process as before, just layering those elements. With mine, I used some foam tape between the layers, which you can definitely do too. Depends on your personal preference. And just nest this right in here. Really pretty effect. If you are someone who experiences Christmas with children or teenagers, especially those who are home from school during the Christmas holidays, maybe you do not have a vacation from work or your school or whatever it is that you're doing, but you may find yourself looking for an activity for kids. I would think, depending on sort of the age of your kids and their crafting abilities, you may find that either die cutting several shapes or even letting them use your die cutting machine, again, just depending on their maturity level, crafting experience, and so on. This could be something that young people and kids could very easily do while you are doing something else or having a well-deserved rest during the holiday time. I'm using just a little bit of white glue here for that laser cut piece. And you do want to, especially with some of the detail oriented elements, you do want to use something that's got a nice precision tip. And I don't need to have this going off the side. So I'm just going to snip this piece off like so. And then our Santa, again, remember, we can have him going whichever direction we want him to go. Let's put him down this way. And I'll put him up on some foam tape for a little bit of depth. I'm sure, like many folks, some of our viewers and listeners today will have kids home for the Christmas holidays, the winter holidays. So it's always nice to have something that they can do that is relatively mess-free or easy to clean up. And assembling things is a really good one to do. And they could even pick out their own papers. I don't know if you want to share your Arden papers with them. That's a decision you'll have to make. Or if you have, as I always did, like the kids' stash of stuff, which was not always my super nice pattern papers and scrapbooking papers. Okay, we've got our Santa here, and then let's just pop him down. And so he's our nice focal in here. Now with the laser cuts, of course, as I mentioned, them being double-sided. So with these messages, for example, you've got some really sweet little sentiments. On the other side, they're blank, which means that you can write or stamp or layer your own sentiments. But also, I realized that many of the sentiments from the winter etching set can fit on there. And you can figure that out if they do, just simply by holding that acrylic packaging over on top of the die cuts, just to see if they will fit in there. But you may want to use the Misty or your paper trimmer for this one. or not paper trimmer, but your stamp positioner for that one, just to make sure that they're on there correctly. They will fit on there. I'm going to say It's a Wonderful Life and position this down here. So if you can think about with all of those different laser cut pieces, the ephemera pieces, all of your pattern papers, this would be so you would be spoiled for choice. You'd have oodles of different elements to pull together and use together. Now on my original piece, I've got a little enamel dot up here, and this is from our coordinating Season of Joy enamel dot set. These come in handy for so many different things. And in fact, I use them on the card too. And I completely forgot to mention that. I'll bring back in the card and show that to you again. So these are just self-adhesive elements that can be used to accent, like, for example, the tip of the shape up here. Let's see, I could use the dark green, this green. I could use the blue. Got a really nice kind of tomato red in there. I think I'll use this one. And just pop that down right at the top. Again, a nice little bit of finishing touch. I should show you here on my card. I've got 3 of the little ones down here at the bottom. So you've got a variety of sizes. You've got small, medium, and large. So there we go. And I'll move this out of the way. And we can also take a closer look at the top of the ornament and our star. Again, I'll pull this up a little bit closer so you can see. And what I'm going to do here is a bit of heat embossing. Again, while I'm working onto my craft mat. And here also, where my white cardstock is going to come in handy. So for this, I need a couple of different things. I need to have a gold pigment-based ink pad. Any one will do. This one, I have to say, is well loved and well used, and running a little bit dry. So I'm going to put some extra upper arm workout into this when I'm applying that to my paper, my cardstock. And then I also have a clear matte embossing powder. Also going to have a piece of scrap paper on hand to catch my embossing powder, and I have my embossing tool over right to hand. So the first thing I'll do, again, working on my craft mat, I'm just going to take the whole ink pad and press it down onto my white cardstock. Doesn't have to be perfectly done. And because I'm just going to be cutting 2 little pieces, I don't need to have a whole lot of coverage on here. Okay, a little bit more than that though. I'm also going to flip this over, maybe smooth that down on here. You know, when you're just trying to get every last little bit of ink out of a well-loved and well-used ink pad. Okay, so I've got enough on there. While the ink is still wet, because it's a pigment-based ink pad, it will stay wet for a pretty long time. Then I can just sprinkle on my clear embossing powder. So it's clear, no color to it. It's just going to give me a raised and shiny look. So that's on there. With my folded paper, I can funnel this back into the jar. And then before I heat set this, very important to put the lid back on the jar. Otherwise, it can go lots of different places. And from here, I'm just going to give this a bit of a zap with my heat tool. So hang in there with me, take a minute, and then you can see that it will be raised and shiny. So hang in there with me for a sec. Alrighty, so the magic has happened. And I've got my raised shiny gold metallic cardstock. So from here, what I can do is simply do my die cutting. Now, I would let this cool down before doing any die cutting, especially you just don't want to set anything metal or anything on top of here because this is still a little bit tacky to the touch. And I can see as I was heat setting that there's some conversation about projects. I would love to see what folks are coming up with. If you've got any projects that you've been inspired with some of these Arden collections, please do share them with us. We would love to see. All right, so after I've got this cooled and it's nice and shiny and raised, here's a piece that I did earlier. Have a look. So, really pretty. This is a good hack to have on hand if you are ever out of a specialty kind of cardstock or paper, especially with metallics, to pick up that gold or silver metallic ink pad. And then from there, I've simply die cut the little pieces. I've got the tops of the ornament as well as some of these sweet little tiny stars. And so from here, again, I'm going to use just a little dab of adhesive and pop this right on top. Let that dry thoroughly. And then the star, well, the star can go just about anywhere. Let's see, I'm going to pop that right here. So it's a bit overlapping. There we go. And then just let those elements dry. Now I did die cut two pieces here because of course you can decorate the other side of your ornament too. Gently lift this up and flip it over and you can see I've got a nice blank space on there. So from here, I can keep going with more cardstock, with more embellishments. I was really torn. I wanted to use the poinsettias as well. I thought those were gorgeous. So there is just so much that you can do with these. Once one side has dried, then you can add in even more elements on the other side. So for this one here, and again, I've got Santa popped up on foam tape as well as the white layer. And then on the other side, I've got some more of these beautiful laser cut embellishments. And I've created kind of a collage with the tag. There was a pine cone and then the season's greetings postage and another one of the sentiments there and another star here as well. And then the second tag topper to go up here. And I just used some really simple red thread that I had in my stash. This could be really pretty with either a metallic ribbon you could do. You could also add in maybe some twine or something a little bit more homespun if you want that look as well. And then don't forget, of course, that you've got some coordinating cards on here as well. So I hope that you have had some creative inspiration with our time together today and enjoyed having a look at all of these gorgeous supplies from the lovely folks at Arden. I'm going to flip up the camera here just for another second so that I can see you all again. And just to remind you too, so this was the Season of Joy collection. It was the Winter Etchings stamp set. I'll show this one again here too. I just love the trees. I think they're stunning. I love the sentiments. Of course, the paper pad, I was telling Fiona earlier, this just has my heart. I think these are so beautiful and so easy to use. And of course, also with our ornament die, which I've set somewhere, the package is somewhere here. It's just so much easier to create beautiful and easy elements and embellishments for your home for the holidays. One other thing I'll point out about the ornament is that I think it would make a really pretty attachment onto a gift package too. So whether you're hanging this on your tree or in your home or onto a package, I think there is just a lot that you can do with that die set. So I do thank you so very much for spending time with us today. It was lovely to see so many folks coming back, and we will be with you again. I will be with you again in 2 weeks' time We have some more Christmas themed elements to play with and to work with, and we will keep you posted on that. So it will be the same time, same place in 2 weeks, and I look forward to seeing you all then. So until then, have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a lovely weekend. Those of you in the snow, please do stay warm, and we will look forward to seeing you again next.